We're not a very chatty bunch at the moment. Missing some doe-eyed lovers, you see. Clarissa and Tolman. The last I saw, they was headed out into the city. If you feel like helping, keep your eyes peeled if you're out that way, eh? We'd rather like our young'uns back. They pretty the place up a bit. A stranger walks into a town with a lost lover in tow. Sounds like the beginning of a jest, which I bloody wish it were. Problem is, we're still one doe-eyed lover short, which ain't much good to anyone. They tend to come in pairs, you see. Since you seem to be in the good deeds business, how about throwing a Tolman into the bargain?
The slums are east of here. Used to house the unwashed of the Empire a couple centuries back. Now it's home to the walking ulcers and sores of this poor city. Shame about the boy. Nice kid. None too smart, though. The same can't be said for Clarissa. She's a survivor. Go and make sure she lives up to her reputation, will you?
Victaria was a poet what ended up leading a rebellion, right under the nose of Emperor Chittis. But here's what really interests me. Our wordsmith was quite the talented larcenist as well. Pulled off the heist of the century, in the name of the people, of course. 3 finely crafted platinum busts, commissioned by Chittis for his favourite trio of generals. Victario and his coppers hold up in the sewers. Now that you have Clarissa's keys, perhaps you'd be inclined to search out those heroic busts for me. I'm sure I can make it well worth your while. I'm no history scholar, but I know that Emperor Chittis was overthrown by Vol of Thebris in the so-called Purity Rebellion. But Vol had the shortest reign of any internal emperor. The cataclysm sort of that.
2 out of 3 busts. Well, it's just not 3, is it? 3's a tidy number. Victario's 3rd and final refuge awaits you, my bold business partner. The Beatles poet could hide his spoils from Chittis, but not from us, eh? I knew you was the exile for the job. I'm sure you've been more than compensated already from Victario's stockpiles, but here's a little extra. Care of something I found under a dead man's bed. Why? Just because I like you. Still breathing, eh? Hello? What's going on? How you going? You right? What's up? How you doing? You getting by? You getting there? You looking sharp? Come over here, mate.
Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Don't do anything I would. Don't do anything I would. Don't do anything I would. Bring me back something nicer. Bring me back something nicer. Bring me back something nicer.
She's just so ample, is our Marimore. In my mind, you'll find no saucier specimen of womanhood. It's the tattoos and that fancy talk she does. Intoxicating. She's a cool one, though. I can't imagine what that poor bastard's been through. It's a miracle Gregor hasn't completely lost his mind. Granted, he's lost 1 or 2 pieces along the way, but there's still plenty that's worth listening to. I was Clarissa's guardian angel back in Oriath. Put food on the table in return for a bit of light work. I try to keep her out of trouble as best I can here, but San's full of secrets, and Clarissa's full of curiosity. Gravesius is the mailed and bloodied right hand of Dominus, and I thought the Templar were meant to be spiritual men of deepest humanity. You notice the sarcasm in my tone, right? Had to smuggle a fellow out of Theopolis once. Got a bit too friendly with Gravesius's wife, he did. Every blackguard was out on the streets looking for him, so I had to think lateral-like. We took to the drains and didn't put our heads above the pavement until we sniffed the sea. A grubby bloody job it was, but worth it for the coin he paid. You want a piece of Gravesius? Sometimes the only way up is down. Gravesius is the mailed and bloodied right hand of Dominus, and I thought the Templar were meant to be spiritual men of deepest humanity. You notice the sarcasm in my tone, right? Had to smuggle a fellow out of Theopolis once. Got a bit too friendly with Gravesius's wife, he did. Every blackguard was out on the streets looking for him, so I had to think lateral-like. We took to the drains and didn't put our heads above the pavement until we sniffed the sea. A grubby bloody job it was, but worth it for the coin he paid. Trust me, the sewers is the only way you'll sneak up on old General Iron-Arse, and you'll need a key to get in there. Have a chat to Clarissa about that. You've done for Gravesius. If only I could get word to that lad I smuggled away from the General's wife at the time. The good widow would need a sympathetic shoulder to cry on.
You met our bard in residence yet? No, I suppose not. He likes to keep his own company. You'll know why when you see him. Anyways, he wants to talk to you. Muttered something about a gemling queen, whatever that is.
You met Gregor yet? You have? Piety made a right mess of that poor bastard.
Anyways, he wants to talk to you. Something about a Gemling Queen. Piety's off to meet the Maker, is she? I'd love to be a fly on the wall of that little chat. Stay out of the shadows. They bite. Stay out of the shadows. Now you're a familiar face. A face that cost me a good deal of coin back in the arenas of Theopolis. Took you for a privileged pretty boy with a death wish. Bet all that against you. Turns out you're as dandy with the blade as you were with your wardrobe. Maybe now's a good chance for you to pay me back, duelist. We're missing some doe-eyed lovers, Clarissa and Tolman. Last I saw, they was headed out into the city. Do us a favour and keep your eyes peeled when you're out there, huh? Now you're a familiar face. A face that cost me a good deal of coin back in the arenas of Theopolis. Took you for a privileged pretty boy with a death wish. Bet all that against you. Turns out you're as dandy with the blade as you were with your wardrobe. Well, at least you've brought Clarissa back to us. I'll take that as half payment for what I figure you owe me. Problem is, one doe-eyed lover isn't much good to anyone. Like gloves, they tend to be more useful than pairs. The missing glove in this case is a young fella named Tolman. Fetch Tolman back for us, and you and I can happily call it quits. A Templar? An exile? Now I've seen it all. Dominus must have run out of honest businessmen to banish, and he's finally getting to the real criminals. Ah well, since you're here, your worship, you might be able to help us out. We've lost some doe-eyed lovers, Clarissa and Tolman. Last I saw, they was headed out into the sea. May God above light your way to their salvation, brother. A Templar? An exile? Now I've seen it all. Dominus must have run out of honest businessmen to banish, and he's finally getting to the real criminals. Just joking with you, your worship. In truth, I'm grateful to you for returning Clarissa to us. Problem is, one doe-eyed lover ain't much good to anyone. Like gloves, they tend to be more useful than pairs. The missing glove, in this case, is a young fella named Tolman. May God above light your way to Tolman's salvation, brother. You can't catch a shadow. That's what we honest businessmen were told when considering your services. But here you are. I call that false advertising. Well, let's see what you can do to polish up that tireless reputation of yours. We've lost two doe-eyed lovers, Clarissa and Tolman. Last I saw, they was headed out into the city. And I know it's not really part of your job description, but we'd like them alive, please. You can't catch a shadow. That's what we honest businessmen were told when considering your services. But here you are. I call that false advertising. Well, at least you brought Clarissa back to us. That's gone part way to polishing up that tarnished reputation of yours. Problem is, one doe-eyed lover ain't much good to anyone. Like gloves, they tend to be more useful than pairs. The missing glove in this case is a young fella named Tolman. See if you can finish the job, huh? Find Tolman. And I know it's not really part of your job description, but we'd like him alive, please. I'll miss the boy. He was always up for a laugh, whether it was at his expense or not. But I would have missed that Clarissa more. Hargan's the name, by the way, and it's my honour to welcome you to dirty old Sane, the metropolis of opportunity. The opportunity to make something of yourself, or the opportunity to have a very messy death. Time to pay me back, duelist. We're missing some doe-eyed lovers, Clarissa and Tolman. Last I saw, they was headed out into the city. Be a good lad and find them for us. At least you've brought Clarissa with you. I'll take that as half repayment for me losses. Problem is, one doe-eyed lover ain't much good to anyone. Fetch Tolman back for us, and you and I can happily call it quits. A Templar? An exile? Now I've seen it all. Dominus must have run out of honest businessmen to banish her. Finally getting down to the real criminals. Well, your worship, here's a chance to prove me wrong about your kind. We've lost some doe-eyed lovers, Clarissa and Tolman. Now last I saw, they was headed into the city. May God above light your way to their salvation, brother. Just pulling your leg, your worship. Truth is, I'm damn grateful for Clarissa's return. But here's the thing. One doe-eyed lover ain't much good to anyone. May God above light your way to dear Tolman's salvation, brother. You can't catch a shadow. That's what we honest businessmen were told whilst gagging at your prices. But here you are. I call that false bloody advertising. Let's polish that tarnished reputation of yours. We've lost two doe-eyed lovers, Clarissa and Tolman. Last I saw, they was headed out into the city. I know it's not really in your job description, but we'd like them alive, please. At least you've brought Clarissa back to us. A faint glimmer in that tarnished reputation of yours. The thing is, one doe-eyed lover ain't much good to anyone. See if you can finish the job. Find Tolman. I know it's not really in your job description, but, we'd like him alive, please.
That's a pretty statuette indeed. From Victorio's hideaway in the slums. If you don't mind, I might pop in there now that you've done a bit of pest control. And nosy around for anything worth salvaging. Fish me something fetching from the marketplace and the warehouse holdfast, won't you? That's a pretty statuette indeed. From Victorio's hideaway in the marketplace. If you don't mind, I might pop in there now that you've done a bit of pest control. And nosy around for anything worth salvaging. Fetch me something fetching from the slums and the warehouse holdfast, won't you? That's a pretty statuette indeed. From Victorio's hideaway in the warehouse district. If you don't mind, I might pop in there now that you've done a bit of pest control. And nosy around for anything worth salvaging. Fetch me something fetching from the slums and the marketplace, will you? Still breathing, eh? Hello, what's going on? How you going? You right? What's up? How you doing? You getting by? You getting there? You looking sharp? Come over here, mate.
Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Don't do anything I would. Don't do anything I would. Don't do anything I would. Bring me back something nice, huh? Bring me back something nice, huh? Bring me back something nice, huh?
Stay out of the shadows. They bite. Stay out of the shadows.
Good to see you're still soldiering on. With all these gods in past horrors wandering around San, I don't assume anyone's alive and kicking these days. Quite the pretty pair, aren't they? Yeah, it's pretty bloody disturbing. That girl was once the sweetest lass I could name. Nowadays she's barking as batshite over that living corpse of hers. All it would take is a quick hard bash with a rock, and Tolman would no longer be a problem. Tempting, don't you think? If San wasn't mad enough, now we've got some whip-tongued hag cooking up a stinking curse in the sewers. Took it from her mother-in-law at first. But no, based on my meagre historical knowledge, I reckon we've a certain Dodry dark-tongue to contend with. Where in blazes is she hiding? I've no idea. So, the only way we're going to catch this witch is by getting our hands, and possibly a lot more, well and truly dirty. And by we, I mean you, of course. The sewers are no place for a simple businessman like me. Do us a favour. Head into them sewers and track that old hag down. Get her to reveal herself, and put her down. Ha! Better your eyes than mine, eh? You'd suppose someone as crafty as Dodry would have kept her ugly head under wraps as soon as she saw you coming. I guess death robs us of many things, including our common sense. In any case, thank you. The sewers can run clear now that there's no fetid witch clogging up the pipes. Here, have a little something to commemorate your fine clean-up job. If you're gonna be in the antiquities business, it pays to take note of whatever history you can. Highgardens and the great Emperor Azaro, for instance. Have you heard of the Lord's Labyrinth? The Highgardens were designed by Azaro as a test run for his great work. He turned his personal garden into a maze and filled it with all sorts of traps and nasty beasties. Convicted criminals were then given a choice, death or the garden. If they got through, an imperial pardon was theirs. Weren't no pardons on record as far as I can see. That's what happens when people have too much time and gold on their hands. A word of caution. That Unk. It might have had some miraculous powers, but I bet there's a nasty reason why Varuso hid the bloody thing away. I've tried to warn Clarissa, but her ears seem as dead as their boyfriend of hers. I told her not to meddle with that damned Unk. She's gone. Her zombie boyfriend, too. Last I saw her, they was headed for the key. Please go after her. Seems like Clarissa's one of those damsels that won't stay saved. Ah, so the lover's fancy turned out to be the necromancer's wet dream, did it? Too good to be true is a bit of an understatement in this sad case. Ah, well, thank you for taking care of Clarissa again. You brought her home safe, and it seems her sanity has chosen to follow. Here, have something to mark this good deed of yours. Needing my eclectic expertise again, are we? Solaris and Lunaris got front and centre stage among them folks at the Eternal Empire. Solaris was thought to be the light of leadership, guiding and enlightening each emperor that sat the throne. In practice, most of them emperors turned out to be a bit dim. but then history and theology have never quite seen eye to eye. As for Lunaris, a goddess of the moon and earth, the mother of dreams and inspiration. Doesn't sound like a bad lady until you consider that dreams harbour nightmares and that inspiration is just one notion shy of insanity. Powerful baubles them orbs are, as old as his Miriams themselves, maybe even older. I've read all there is on them little beauties. The sun orb's said to contain all that has been, while its sister, the moon orb, holds all that will be, past and future, packed up neat behind glass and thaumaturgy. Shudder to think what might happen if all that got out one day. I'd thank the gods, but you seem to be taking them out at an alarming rate. Not that I'm complaining. In my experience, theocracy's never been great for entrepreneurs like me. Unless you're in the holy relics business. That's too single-minded, too orderly. Give me chaos any old day, for it is in chaos that opportunity is bred. Sun can get back to its usual state of mayhem, and I can get back down to business. Everyone's a winner. Grigor left without a single word to me, rude bugger. But I suspect his poetic soul has been drawn back home to Izmir. A long journey, but a trip worth taking to find solace among one's own people. Of course, they'll get quite the shock when they see him. Let's hope familial love is as near-sighted as they say. There are the fine tales Grigor will be able to tell them, of course. Come to think of it, now that Dominus has been knocked off his perch, there's nothing to stop the Izamites from learning a thing or two from Grigor's stories. They might even consider invading this jewel and Rayclast's tarnished crown. I certainly hope they have just such an eye for opportunity. A man could make a tidy sum helping said invaders navigate San and its many azids. I heard tell of an ancient Val scholar who bore the name Ugel. He'd conduct these grisly experiments in pursuit of some piece of nasty wisdom tucked in the nether regions of human terror. Practiced on young kiddies, no less, scaring the living shite out of Val toddlers and then nabbing their fare within a hall of thaumaturgical mirrors. Could be the whole story's a crock, and here's where it gets even hazier. Seems old Ugel found something in that fare, enough to scare a whole swag of Val into worshipping him. Honestly, some people will worship anything for a bit of spiritual peace of mind. So it was that bloody scholar after all, was it? Sick bastard. Well, he's gone now, and I hope you made sure he suffered like those poor kiddies he tormented. I'd have toasted him nice and slow like a spitted pig. See how he'd like them apples stuffed in his mouth. Here, have something for keeping us safe from the divine undesirables of this world. The savage child they called Old Krav, bit like a nephew of mine back in Oriath. A fine boy, as long as you didn't give him anything more delicate than a brick to handle. So, from what little I've garnered, Krav managed to royally piss off a couple of Izmiri goddesses, Solaris and Lunaris no less. Massacred some worshippers, knocked over a temple or two, that sort of malarkey. The sisters retaliated by burying the poor bastard alive, adding some curses to make sure he stayed there. Still alive, of course. Now that I recall, there's an old soldier's myth about a giant that erupts out of the mud during a battle and sets to slaughtering, only to sink back into the mire once the last drop of blood is spilt. Always took that for a convenient excuse for the nastier atrocities of war. Perhaps there's some truth in it after all. I did some digging while you were out and about. Yes, pun intended. Old Krav, he's maintained an odd lot of followers in his day. Right nasty fellas, partaking in the crushing of puppies, kittens and children into the dirt. Some sort of ritualistic sacrifice cult. Now he's gone the way of every other deity to cross your path. We might see an end to madness of that barbaric sort. Anyways, I think a reward's in order. Dispensing of the bane of soldiers earns you a little treaty, as it were. Dread Champion Vestilo. Got to say, he's my personal favourite of the Izmiri deities. Quite the dramatist he was. Making his warriors dress up in masks and scary costumes before sending them off to battle. They'd go rushing in looking like a horde of ghosts and ghoulies, and then do their absolute worst to make a right mess of the enemy. Seems like the Lord of Dread was quite partial to the public torture of captives and the vile desecration of corpses. all in the name of doing a nasty number on the minds of those he wished he'd conquered. Still, for all his pageantry, I bet Vastilo's not half as scary as you are when you put your mind to it. Part of me feels a bit sad to know that old Vastilo is no more. But then that's the stupid, boorish part of me I'd like to drown in liquor as soon as possible. What was he like? Was he as frightening as the stories say? Nah, don't answer that. He's still my favourite. Facts be damned. Anyhow, take your pick of my stock as payment for my vicarious enjoyment of the Dread Champion's demise. Tell me something. Any chance you might be willing to join forces and turn a healthy profit with old Hargan? You ever heard of the wings of Visteri? Not just another damned artifact. This one was the highest symbol of the office of the Meraketh, held by the Sechima of Sechimas. History books will say the wings were last worn by Sechima Asenath, the Golden Sechima, the one who went and got herself murdered by Hector Tertusius. The only problem is that Tertusius himself is up and guarding his pretties once more. Still, if you can recover those wings of Visteri, then I'm confident I can sell them back to the Meraketh for a fair sum. They're a cultural icon, after all, dripping with sentimental value. What do you say? You found them! No easy feat, I bet. How's old Hector these days? Not so good after you crossed paths with him, am I right? I'll polish these wings up and get them back to their owners, just as soon as my Meraketh friend can get her folks to pay the ransom. Price, I mean. In the meantime, take a little something from my stock as payment. What little humanity General Tertusius was born with, he traded in for strength. Went as far as to have Malachi replace his joints with virtue gems. Mad bastard. Afterwards, Emperor Chittis charged Tertusius with subduing the Meraketh. A job he took a little too much pleasure in, if you ask me. Well, they're forged from solid gold. I can tell you that much. But I suppose that's not really what you're asking about. The wings are a treasured piece of the Meraketh heritage. Back when the tribes quit their squabbling and joined hands to battle the Eternal Empire, the wings were seen as a symbol of their unity. The Golden Sechima wore them as she led the whole bloody Meraketh horde against San. She was a single greatest hope for the Meraketh, was that Asenath. Hector Tertusius crushed both their hopes and their precious Sechima. We're none too chatty at the moment. Missing some doe-eyed lovers, Clarissa and Tolman. Last I saw, they was headed out into the city. If you feel like helping, keep your eyes peeled if we're out there, huh? Whoever you are, I have to thank you for returning Clarissa to us. Problem is, one doe-eyed lover ain't much good to anyone. Like gloves, they tend to be more useful in pairs. The missing glove in this case is a young fella named Tolman. We'd be ever so grateful if you could find him for us.